Oh,
There's
oh,
like a delay of 5-10 seconds, so I'll just wait for a
I
little
just
bit.
refreshed and it still says offline. Are you sure you're streaming to UMD lol and not Sprintspeed?
Should be, since I haven't streamed Sprintspeed in quite some time.
Okay,
I'll just give it
oh, there we
a
go. I see
little
it
bit.
now.
There it is. Okie dokie. I think we should be good. Semi-final stream live. It's hard to talk and type at the same time, but this will be the semifinal of the lower bracket, as I had just previously mentioned. We good to go. Everyone's already coin flipped and everything. This is going to be the match between Team 10 and Team 6. Kind of a throwback to yesterday, where we actually had the same matchup except in the upper bracket, but Chill Pill this time is going to be captain of Team 10, and McCracken going to be leading Team 6, also known as SKTerp T6. So props to him for having a pretty fun name there instead of just Team 10. I mean, I don't want to pick favorites here, but that name's a little more fun to look at and kind of say. Also, I'm good friends with Quick Ben Ace on the blue side of this first match. So we had a theater class together, which was pretty fun. King Crab, did you change your name in the last 3 hours? Looks like somebody's been doing some scouting research if he's remembers exactly what their name was. Okay, it looks like one of them was in the bathroom, so we have a little bit of time to kind of get warmed up for this match. I don't believe I've casted either of these teams earlier in this tournament, but one thing that is going to be fun going forward, sorry about that, I'll silence my phone and get off Facebook so you guys don't get any confusing notifications like you just heard. But going into this, they were actually in the same group, and Team 10 came out of the group. Actually, I have it in stream overlay, but Team 10 came out 4-1, except the only team with that beat them in the entire group stage was SKTerp T6. They came out 5-0, so this is kind of a rematch from earlier on. So we'll see if Team 10's feeling like bringing it back.
Yeah, oftentimes in groups and brackets, teams tend to stick to a very similar playstyle every game. They want to figure out what works and just keep doing the exact same thing over and over. So I think now that they're rematching again in groups, they've had a little bit of time at least to think about overall macro strategy, possibly team compositions, see what sort of comfort champions there are, and really try to draft aggressively.
Speaking of aggressive draft, last night when I was casting the other Team 10 versus Team 6 semifinal match, the games were pretty long. Neither team really had super strong engage in the first game, and both teams are kind of nervous of throwing, especially, which is not very surprising when you look at a semifinal best of 3. You don't really want to give away all that you've been working for this entire semester, so it just kind of dragged out to 50-60 minutes, but in the end, it was a pretty close matchup, and Aigu Wow's team did pull ahead afterwards. He's on Team 6. So we'll see if SKTerp T6 lives up to the Team 6 hype, see if they can match their brethren in the upper bracket. Looks like somebody's still pooping. That's always lovely to think of.
Also, cool question. Do you hear my mic mute and unmute when I manually do it in Discord?
I do not hear like the beep or whatever, so
Okay, good.
it just sounds
So
like
I'll
you
have
stopped
to
talking.
mute in and out since my parents can sometimes be extremely loud.
Yeah. Richard's not a baby. He's just saving money, living at home for a little bit, which is quite nice. Being able to get a car, maybe pay back some of the student loans. I can hear you, Freddie. Shout out to you in the chat. Ramen Joy, if you want to cast some games, just let me know, and I'll try to hook you up with when some games are going down.
Yeah.
Earlier,
And feel free. Oh, sorry.
oh,
Finish up.
yeah, earlier on in the tournament, there's like tons of teams playing, so there's most of the games actually get uncasted, don't get broadcast in the first couple weeks, just because there's like so many teams playing.
Yeah. Also, since I'm sort of like an old man now and I have like a full-time job and have to wake up early to go to work, I'm not too keen on staying up too late. So if this best of 3 goes to 3 games, if you'd like to cast Game 3, you're more than willing to hop on Discord. We'll figure something out, and then I guess you can co-cast with Reza for the last game.
That could be fun. We'll see how close the series is. Yesterday, Team 6 pulled out the 2-0, but it was still about a couple hours to get there because each game was so long. So, looks like we're just making sure everyone's quite ready. We are good to go. And before we get into the pick ban draft, I have to pretty much mention this every game I cast, but when you look at not really the professional level, it's really important to look at comfort picks for these different players, because obviously if you're not really playing this game for 10 to 12 hours a day, it's really difficult to get a very robust champion pool of like 4 or 5 new characters every few months. So even if things are a little off meta, like Larry Zhang UMD in the upper bracket actually made it to the finals playing Singed, Karthus, and Malzahar top in pretty much all their games. So, as I talk about that, Vayne getting banned out, she's been pretty strong recently. And the Kennen following back up. These are not very surprising to me. What do you think, C9?
I think the Vayne ban is probably based off of a trend. Their AD probably actually plays a decent amount of Vayne. In terms of Vayne being strong at the moment, she's definitely in top 3. I would say Twitch is also definitely one to contest, but when people aren't exactly comfortable on Twitch, I guess it's not as high of a priority. I'm not exactly sure what these 2 AD carries will or have comfort on, but I'd say there's definitely higher priority to go for it.
Yeah, Fizz Malzahar also coming out might be some of the favorite champions of the enemy mid laner, and Rise also fairly there's a lot of focus in the solo lanes right now. We'll see if that's reflected in the jungle pressure, if the holy moly. But that insta-lock Swain looks like McCracken is gonna be pretty happy to snatch that out of the hands of his opponents. I'm not entirely sure what the different champion pools for all these players are, but if he's happy with that champion, then we'll see if it ends up working out later on.
Yeah, the Swain first pick is probably definitely a comfort pick. I don't exactly see most people having any priority on it. Possibly looking to steal it away from someone on the other team, but it's quite unlikely that they have overlapping champion pools.
They're hovering the Caitlyn, Zac right now. Those are very meta champions, especially with the addition of Courage of the Colossus. Zac can get pretty huge tankiness inherently through that mastery, and Caitlyn going back to that lane dominant bot lane that's been kind of dominating ever since Riot instituted that first Tower Blood extra bonus gold. I think
and
a
also
couple
Caitlyn,
of those,
yeah, Caitlyn just happens to have enough range to outrange Swain in terms of team fighting, so that's also a nice little plus, a solid laning phase, and one person that you know you'll at least be somewhat effective in against team fights. The response to the Zac pick is the Ezreal, probably scared of getting jumped on constantly, not wanting to pick an immobile AD carry. It's an okay option, but oftentimes it's better to just pick an AD carry that is immobile, but never be in a position to actually get jumped on in the first place, so play very passively. Especially when you know you're picking a champion like Janna, who has 2 ways to interrupt the Zac jump. You can go for more high damage hyper carry, because I think the team's definitely going to want more damage against a double tank team.
So what you're saying is these guys just need to get good at this game.
Either get good or trust your support more, because when you pick something like Janna, your job is to stop the engage, and when the engage is as telegraphed as Zac jump, because it even has an indicator now, there's pretty much no excuse to not actually being able to disengage that.
Murderous Indian going to be grabbing the Darius. See if he's comfortable on that champion in the top lane. How do you, or with the Lissandra going through the mid, that gives them a lot of extra roam pressure. She's pretty good at shoving things out and making some ganks happen. What are your thoughts on the Swain Darius potential matchup?
I think Swain can definitely win it in the early game. He has a snare, he has a slow. All Darius has is the ability to walk up and get at him. I actually think this might be one of those rare occasions where Ghost might be more effective on Darius.
Witness true strength.
Yeah, also I think you definitely want the Ignite for the kill pressure on Darius against Swain. You can certainly try to do without it, but when someone first picks Swain and they feel so confident about their champion, you might as well just go all in and decide to destroy them with your own pick instead. First picking a solo lane without a priority pick that isn't something that's commonly considered extremely strong or safe generally just opens up a whole bag of terrible counter picks.
And the last picks for Blue Team are that Skarner Echo. We'll see if their support... Freddie... Oh, I thought that was maybe a filler. One of the UMD's chances against Boston College in the Quick Lane Bowl. I think Maryland can definitely pull it out. Go Terps football. But anyways, with the Echo Skarner, obviously Echo gives him a little bit of extra split push option. Although I don't know if he's going to be running teleport. The summoner spells are currently hidden. But I'm a little scared that Blue Team doesn't really have a lot of engagement tools. The Red Team hovering that Bard right now, that would give him, along with the Zac and the Lissandra, really good ways to get into the enemy team. But it might be difficult if Blue side falls behind. It might be kind of hard to claw their way back in.
So I like the amount of wave clear that's on both teams. That's definitely something that is oftentimes overlooked in many team comps. Some people just forget to draft for it. They like the comfort picks. So there's a solid amount of wave clear on both sides, so they both have the ability to stall out the game if the other team starts snowballing. But again, the issue is actually both teams have pretty decent dive potential. So this could get very interesting very quickly if they play extremely aggressively. But in general, in tournaments like this, teams tend to play extremely safe. You don't want to be the one to throw the game.
Yeah, I'm also a little surprised that they grabbed the Bard as their last pick, because most support champions can't really get hard countered unless you're doing something like into a Leona matchup. But especially since they got Janna on their second round pick, I feel like it might have been more relevant for them to kind of hold off on one of their solo lanes to kind of keep that a little bit hidden for their mid laner or possibly their top laner, but they could have probably expected that Swain top. But they just decided to grab the solo lanes when they want to and bring the Bard out last.
The Bard is not a bad pick, considering that the enemy engage usually has to come straightforward into you. Also, the nice never remember the old names. I need to study up on these.
Tempered Fate.
Tempered Fate is Tempered Fate. Tempered Fate definitely will help them dive extremely hard. You can jump in, take 1 or 2 tower shots worth of aggro, ult the tower, and then just continue going, drop the aggro.
Yeah, I did actually go back and re-memorize all the champion abilities, I believe. So if you want to throw out any champion, I might be able to hit you up with all their abilities, minus possibly the passive. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten all the passives down, but it's a little tricky.
What is Skarner's E?
Skarner's E is a Fracture, I believe. But you guys can look that up if you don't believe me. I'm pretty sure that's correct. We do reveal the summoner spells, and we have a double ignite mid lane. That could be getting pretty spicy there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what will eventually happen in this mid lane. I actually think that Echo wins this matchup slightly, as long as he doesn't get poked out too hard in the early game. Lissandra does have that range advantage on him. But when it comes to the level 6 all-in, Echo has the option to more or less just revert whatever Lissandra decides to do.
Alrighty.
And the double ignite.
Both these mid laners do have a heal ultimate, so the ignite is a little bit more relevant in the team in fights, as opposed to if maybe they're against a different mid lane champion.
I also really would have liked to see Bard take Ignite, because it's going to be an eventuality to need it against a Janna, Echo, Swain. 3 people that heal a good amount on many people. So by taking Exhaust in the lane matchup of Caitlyn Bard versus Ezreal Janna, like it's so safe on either side that you might as well just go for the opportunistic aggressive summoner spell, which just would be the Ignite for the surprise all-in every here and there, because I don't really see Exhaust saving them or being very impactful, at least for the sake of laning phase, because both teams pick an extremely passive, farm-oriented laning bot lane.
Right, and Ramen Joy in the chat right now saying that maybe he would have preferred to see Model Life on a more aggressive support champion. Or actually,
I think the Janna was a good pick because it was a response into Zac. Zac is extremely strong if you don't have anything to stop his jump, but once you have something to reliably end his jump, he becomes so much less effective. So I think the Janna was the correct play in this case.
Oh, alright, we'll see if it works out for them, if they can find the fights. We'll get into the loading screen, and one of my favorite parts of the entire casting experience, being able to look at the beautiful skins everyone has wasted, spent all their money on to kind of show off to everyone, all their friends and teammates, what exactly they can do. And I'm really liking how Team 6 has their own club tag, UMCP6, just rocking that, showing how much synergy they have between their teammates.
Yep,
Looks like we
also
got Snow Day Bard on one side, but Star Guardian Janna's pretty freaking nice. I think SKTerp T6 wins out on this one.
I'm gonna have to go with it as well. They look like a cohesive team right now.
What are your thoughts on Ezreal running Fervor for Battle, even after they've kind of changed that up?
I think it's fine. Personally, Warlord's Bloodlust more so fits my playstyle, because I like to play extremely aggressively bot lane and trade all day, and the more you trade but don't all in, the more you win with Warlords. So the way Warlords pretty much works in terms of laning phase is Fervor will eventually outdamage you in a long team fight, but you now have sustain while they don't. So as long as you pick the right fights and disengage at the right time, you'll always have more pressure in the lane if you run Warlords. And that's kind of the reasoning behind why Warlords is becoming, I think, the most prominent mastery for AD carries right now, other than on Jhin.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Alrighty, but yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the beginning of the semifinal match between SKTerp T6 and their opponent's Team 10 for the 2016 Capital One circuit. On the blue side, we do have McCracken representing that top lane with his jungler Skarner. Oh no, I can't see the names if I hover over the client. That's how I always used to sneakily know all their names. But anyways, it's going to be Grillmaster Jessen on Skarner in the jungle. Quick Ben Ace, my friend Evan playing Echo in the mid lane. Then their AD carry K-Wolf and their support Asian Mata Life.
Still trying to figure out the new Spectate client. I'm using the new client right now, and I'm kind of confused. I'll figure it out at some point.
It's fairly similar in terms of what the hotkeys are. There's a little replay bar at the top that if you press U, that replay thing will go away, and you can bring up the normal screen with a O, and then you can still swap between gold with X and stuff. But
okay. And Ramen Joy brought up a pretty good point. Right now in the jungle, I think it's absolutely ridiculous and possibly one of the strongest strategies ever. You just start your red buff and do Krugs. Krugs give so much EXP that you can get level 3 off of 2 camps, while solo laners are still level 1. The easiest thing in the world to absolutely cheese the bot lane if you play on blue side.
oh, a good Cosmic Binding landing on K-Wolf. He does get down to almost 50% there, getting some nice harass early on, and Janna gonna be hurting a little bit, wishing she had a little more from that shield. So far, looks like the red side did get that level 2 advantage, and even though Bard doesn't get a great spike in his level 2 power, Caitlyn does have a lot more harassment, a lot more tools to harass people with.
Yep.
with those traps.
But matchups are all playing out quite aggressively right now. All lanes are trading heavily. No one's playing safely. Zach looking for a gank mid lane, does the elastic slingshot but misses. Ignite goes down, and that should be
Ooh. That last auto from the Lissandra, well played by the Zach. You were talking about level 3 jungler ganks. Apparently, he didn't really need to do it super early because still got it to work, even though Quick Ben Ace did dodge that knockup on the slingshot. But because he had to dodge kind of closer to Lissandra, that allowed him to take that one final auto. The Ignite might have finished him off anyways, but one thing I want to point out is a super sneaky Caitlyn trap she put down right next to the tower. I'm trying to zoom in on it. But if you're an 80 carry, it can get really easy to not even notice those and then just take free damage.
Yeah, sometimes there are annoying wards and traps that you simply can't see unless you move your camera angle to a really awkward place.
Yeah, Darius does get the apprehend with the Courage of the Colossus being able to tank a lot of those minions in a favorable trade because he had gotten harassed by Swain down, but now it's really even. Zach coming out with a very sneaky positioning in this bush. Once Darius kills this last minion, he might try to move, last few minions, he might try to move up a little bit. But meanwhile, on the blue side, looks like they might be thinking of ganking bottom. Zach pulls the trigger back. Gonna be going to Deuce Krugs.
A good ward from Swain actually spots it out.
Ooh, that was a really nice reaction from the bot lane for Team 10 right there. It completely dodges out on that engage, but it does cost them both of their flashes.
Yep. First dragon up is Mountain Drake, a pretty important dragon to have for both teams, because sieging and objectives is always required to win any game.
Yeah, no matter what you might say, you do need some level of macro knowledge to be able to pull wins out. You usually cannot just win on pure skill alone, or mechanical skill alone. Obviously, being able to do macro play is also a skill, but I'm kind of interested to see when Skarner's going to start making some moves. Obviously, he really wants that level 6 for the Impale gank, but Ezreal Arcane shifts right out before the trap gets him. But he hasn't really had any impact on the map so far.
Yeah, Skarner's just farming it out. I believe Skarner is a little more impactful at level 6, but Zach also has that crazy amount of teamfighting ability. So we'll see how this ends up. But I think in general, the rule of thumb on Zach is you keep forcing ganks until you lose your passive, and then you keep farming, and then you just go back.
Just smork, keep going face until you make it.
You might as well utilize your passive. It's like if you aren't, you know, dying on Kog'Maw, are you really playing him right?
Alright, I'll keep that in mind next time we try to duo together. But looks like Zach is going to be looking at this mid lane, and it looks like SKTerp T6 does not have any vision. He does get the knockup this time. Quick Ben Ace is getting burst down a lot. He doesn't have his chrono break yet. That's going to be another kill for I Am Baby Groot. We saw that the blue team actually banned out a lot of the mid lane champions, but that doesn't seem to be helping much so far because I Am Baby Groot is making things work with his jungler.
Yeah, after being ganked twice by Zach and then losing to this Lissandra, I think it's pretty important for Echo to be building some MR right now, because that's more or less the only threats he's dealing with so long as team fights keep happening. I'm trying to figure out how to open up items, but I can't figure that out. I'll find it at some point.
Alright, well, yeah, and if we look at the actual vision coverage, well, actually, Zach's going in here. A good roam from I Am Baby Groot. That is the importance of mid lane pressure. You can make very aggressive jungle dives like this. McCracken trying to get away. The Swain Ravenous Claw keeping him alive just barely. Quick Ben Ace comes in, but he does not have the level 6, so he's a little bit afraid of staying in this fight too long while his enemies did get their ultimates. That's going to be giving them the kill in the jungle, possibly stealing the blue buff. They're just going to go back and accept that win in the jungle.
Wait, they should definitely take that blue buff. They know where the bot lane is, and they knew exactly where the other 3 champions were because they just fought them. That was a pretty free blue buff to take.
Looks like they Maybe they're just feeling a little bit like Ivor and they don't want to hurt their friends too much. Just saying hi. But yeah, in all seriousness, that could take away a lot of the power from either the enemy mid laner or jungler, because Skarner's already underleveled. So being able to deny him even more experience might prove to be useful. He does not have the, like I just said, he does not have level 6, but they're trying to make a gank happen. They are spotted out by Ward, and Zac might actually catch Quick Ben Ace here. He could get sandwiched in between the entire bot lane and this jungler. Lissandra's nowhere to be seen, so he might be able to get out of here if he does have his level 6. And Zac actually gets stunned up. They might turn it around. Here comes Skarner, but a good Tempered Fate stops Echo in his tracks. Meanwhile, Skarner trying to make something happen. Still has not leveled up. Maybe he should have done a camp before roaming down here. Lissandra still pushing that mid lane. She might have been able to roam down if she had left immediately. But nothing's really going to happen after all that action.
Yeah, Skarner needed to hit that level 6. Pre-6, his team fighting ability is quite poor, especially when he's not sitting on top of one of his altars. Early game, his main strength is his zone control when he has one of his, I guess they're altars. Little shard mini game thing that he has.
Got a nice zoom in there, but...
But yeah, back to the builds. I love talking about champion builds. Echo really needs MR right now. That's his main enemy. But instead he's going for his Morello Namicon build. See, even Lissandra understands that against a team where you can't dodge the damage because it's all AoE or more or less point and click, your best bet is to build resists rather than damage. Because if you can survive, your damage will come out. But if you die, then you have no damage.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to that basics of AD carry. Your first priority is always to stay alive in the team fight. Make sure you're not kind of putting yourself in too much danger so you can keep putting out that sweet DPS. And we'll see if Quick Ben Ace is able to kind of slip by with some of this MR, but considering the amount of focus they've been putting mid lane so far, I think you might be onto something there, that having a little bit more resist could help, especially against the double AP mid and jungler combo. It looks like Lissandra does get push advantage. She might try to roam, but instead just puts a little bit of deep ward. She's had this entire little jungle entrance warded for the past 3 or 4 minutes, ever since she was about to turn level 6, just trying to anticipate that Skarner power spike. So very proactive of her to know that Skarner might be looking to help out his mid laner.
Yeah, especially after getting ganked several times, most people usually say, man, the enemy jungler's been here so many times, where's mine?
Yeah, looks like Murderous Indian is not feeling very murderous right now, and Skarner's actually coming up. He does have his ultimate off cooldown. Is he going to be able to get one onto Darius? And does get him with the Crystal Fracture! Gonna be going in with that Decrepify, and that's gonna be 1 kill for Grillmaster Jess, and finally making his cooldowns work around the map. We'll see if Zac responds.
Yeah, honestly, right now is a good time to get that Mountain Dragon. You know that they're top lane, and you have the stronger mid lane, and arguably the stronger bot lane right now, so there's absolutely nothing stopping you from getting this dragon. But they're definitely making the right call right here.
Sounds good. It looks like they're just going to be trading objectives around the map. If Swain and Skarner don't stick around, I guess they won't get that top tower, but... Oh, yeah, and especially with the teleport coming in, but... Trading that 1 kill for the dragon, do you think both teams are happy with that, or do you think maybe blue team might have preferred to keep him? Oh my goodness, what a cosmic binding! Zac timing the knockup perfectly to follow up on that. Looks like Team 10 is coming back with a vengeance. They said, you beat us in the group stage. We're not going to make the same mistake again. But Kraken, meanwhile, trying to make something happen. He does so much damage with his ultimate that he might be able to make this 3v1 work with all the minions. And actually, there comes an ace in the hole. Is Kylexi going to go down? Looks like he will get out. Doesn't even have to pop that cell division. And Quick Ben Ace on the hunt. Oh my goodness. Nice 2-shot barrage, by the way, by Ezreal. Popping that passive. We're going to let Echo pick up this kill. Or will he? Oh
He
my.
might actually get out perfectly fine. I think he... Oh, and he hesitated on his pathing for a second, wiggled back and forth, and dies to the phase dive.
That's the worst. He had the opportunity to go through. Bard was saying, listen, man, I'm the king crab. I know how to help out my citizens, but apparently it was not enough. Or he just didn't realize that the portal was close by. But a little bit unfortunate for him. That's going to still be a 2-6 lead, though. And red team is still up 3,000 gold at 13 minutes.
Yeah, that's that classic Zac Bard dive. You need to respect simply how much damage they can tank and mitigate from these towers. They really don't care about the tower once they both have 6 and have passive up.
Yeah, and if we look at where the gold advantages lie, their mid and AD carry are both about 1,000 gold up on their enemy counterparts, especially because Israel starts with that tier. Holy cow! I am Baby Groot turning into a full-grown Groot. Getting another kill under his belt, but yeah, that just goes to show. I think a
slight misstep there forces Lissandra to use the flash to get the kill. I think it was perfectly safe to do it without it once he stepped in range, but either way, a kill's a kill.
Yeah, she didn't even have to pop Ignite, so she can go and run that back again. Looks like Quick Band-Ace is actually going to pick up that Negatron Cloak like you were mentioning earlier. He has not really been able to stay safe enough to avoid needing that damage mitigation. So
yeah, at this point, it's more helpful to let your team try to carry you. By building full damage, you get pushed out of lane. You more or less become a negative help for your team. By becoming at least tanky, you can at least soak damage. You can hold lanes properly. And honestly, Echo's base damages are kind of disgustingly high, which is what made Tank Echo so viable too. So you don't really need the damage to be an effective Echo.
Yeah, ooh, that was actually really satisfying to look at. Got almost all that CS under tower, but missed maybe that last one. McCracken does have a 10 CS lead against his opponent, but he did get killed from that one gank. Or wait, when did Swain actually... Oh no, Swain died bottom, but they killed Darius once. So Swain able to get a bit of an advantage against the Darius. And looks like Quick Band-Ace gets stunned. That Cosmic Binding barely landed. He's trying to save his ultimate. Actually uses it to go back into the Chrono Break and get a stun off. That was a pretty nice play, but the rest of his team is a little bit slow to respond. I don't know if he can get out of here. The Monsoon holds him off for a long time, but not long enough. Another double kill for the Caitlyn here, and K-Wolf is just gonna be saying his prayers right now because there are 3 people looking to dive this turret. All Caitlyn has to do is kill these minions. Bard is not gonna let him back anytime soon. Looking a little dicey for them.
Looking very dark for K-Wolf. I don't know why Zac peeled off to help farm the minions, because this tells K-Wolf, wait, this is my chance to make a break for the next tower. There's nothing else to stop me.
Yeah, and Lissandra does pick up that first turret gold as well, so that's going to increase the gold lead to 5,000, 6,000 gold in the first 15 minutes. This has been nothing short of a stomp so far, just by the synergy between the Zac and his laning partners. Just such good follow-ups by all these players.
Yeah, blue side is putting a little too much emphasis on this top lane matchup and not getting anything out of it. I understand the need and the desire to snowball your captain, but when the rest of your team really needs an anti-dive deterrent... Oh, and there's another dead. Yep.
Another dead bird. Pro tip for any one of you that plays Pokemon, Ice is super effective against flying, so he picks that one up. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. He is going to finish that Hextech GLP, but I don't know if that's enough to save them so far, because they're just going to get the 3rd outer turret. They're going to be able to completely dominate the map, and especially against the likes of Bard, Lissandra, Zac, you do not want to be roaming a blind jungle.
Yeah, right now Red Team has so much power and control in terms of how many towers they have. What they should be doing right now is advancing a steady line of control wards and wards in general. But sadly, the vision game isn't exactly prioritized very much inside these lower bracket games.
Yeah, and in the last minute, Team 6 has done a decent job on that bottom side jungle, just clearing out a lot of those wards and placing some of their own. You can actually see that their jungle is pretty well lit up, more or less, because they knew that Lissandra was roaming to the top side, so they had a little bit of leeway to do that. But we'll see if they can hold that, and yeah, I definitely agree with you that Team 10 right now needs to look to advance that vision line. Now there's another dragon coming out. Do you think Team 6 really has a chance at contesting this? Well, either way, it looks like a fight might be breaking out. Lissandra's coming in close. Here comes the parallel convergence to try to knock them off. Caitlyn does not get the 90 caliber net extra auto attack damage, but another beautiful Tempered Fate followed up with a great Cosmic Binding. This Bard has been so on point with all of his CC, and McCracken trying to do what he can, but when you have the enemy igniting you, there's only so much you can do against Swain. And even though he makes a pretty big impact early on in the fight, that's still going to be a 3-for-0. And
keep in mind, that was also a 4v5. Darius is still pushing the top lane. The red team is so far ahead that they still won that fight anyways.
Yeah, a lot of that just came from the fact... Sandra almost didn't make it there, but a lot of that came from the fact that blue team was really spread out going toward that dragon. They were able to kind of catch Skarner, then the other two characters just 1x1 and 2x2, so it wasn't ever really a 5v4. Even though they had 5 members, they weren't really able to use their numbers advantage very well.
Yeah, I think this is the issue with picking this Ezreal into their comp. They really just lack damage right now. The other team is free to dive with relatively squishy tanks early game, but there really isn't anything to stop them. There's not any diving deterrent there. And really it's just up to Janna to stop the dive, but when you have a Zac, a Lissandra Claw, a Tempered Fate, and all these other things you have to worry about, there's not many options when it's a 5-man dive coming.
Yeah, it looks like Darius and Caitlyn along with Lissandra are going to be happy to push this out. Maybe extend this mid lane pressure into a possible really early Baron play, but they do find Skarner, and he's going to have to pop his ghost to... Oh wait, that's not a ghost, that's just his little Spire along with the Scuttle Crab buff. Yeah, he's actually moving super quickly there. But
yeah, honestly, it's pretty crazy how fast Skarner moves and how... Does he get attack speed? I believe he does get attack speed as well. How fast he attacks and how much mana regen he has.
Yeah, rest in peace Rift Herald, by the way, going back to the Void for his big brother to come out to play. Right now, I don't even think Team 6 can really think about doing Baron or when they might be able to make that happen. They just need to hold on to their inner turrets so far, and they have been putting a lot of wards in several of their jungle entrances. Meanwhile, an Impale actually goes off in the mid lane. This is going to be a pretty good fight, but a 3-man Tempered Fate is going to try to slow this fight down, get the rest of their members to come in. Lissandra's coming in soon. That was all they needed, but a great Monsoon by Janna might be able to push them back, and Echo comes in from the backside, but the rest of the red team is just going to back up and try to focus him. Looks like Caitlyn is now godlike. Chill pill. No chill in this fight right here. McCracken is also going to fall down. This Bard just saving his teammates to allow for the Zac Lissandra to completely turn that one around. Although a good effort by Team 6 to try to make something happen, even though they're in a really large deficit.
Yeah, this Caitlyn is way too big right now. Once you have your 2 core items on Caitlyn, and the other AD carry sitting on 1 and a tier, the DPS difference is so huge. And this Swain hasn't really been enabled yet, per se. Isn't exactly impactful yet, especially against how tanky the other team is. So I don't really see blue team having any way of clawing back into this game.
You can just look at the gold running down this. Lissandra's 3,000 gold up. That's like a full item. Caitlyn is almost 4,000 gold up, about 3.5. That's like a full item. This is going to be super rough for all these players on the blue side. And, you know, at this point, it might just be... Obviously, never really want to give up, but maybe just kind of have to start thinking toward the next game. Like, okay, we can try to hold this one out, stall it if we can, but got to mentally prepare yourself not to get completely tilted by a loss like this.
Yeah, honestly, keeping your composure throughout any sort of set of games is pretty difficult. And sometimes you just have to recognize you lost the game, and it's better for your team and the mental state of everyone to just give it up as a loss and carry on to the next game. Sometimes you start to learn bad habits from playing a game too long. You give someone too much respect when ideally you could actually win that all in now that you're both on even grounds now.
Looks like Caitlyn was AFK in the mid tower for like 3 seconds, but she's going back to her team. Team 6 does recognize that the enemy will probably start going for the Baron, so they're very proactively getting a lot of these wards out. They have the entire top side of their jungle warded, and even though they've been losing a lot of these fights with this oh my goodness, the hard engage that red team has been super strong. A redemption comes out, but that's just going to be complete obliteration against Team 6. They've at least had a lot of their jungle warded, but it just hasn't been enough to keep the enemy at bay with such strong engage. Looks like Zach's gonna follow up with the elastic slingshot. He does get a knock up on Grill Master Jess, and the Impale maybe gonna be able to get him under tower here. Zach actually flashes into the enemy base, and they're just gonna surrender, try to move on to the next game. Like you said, they realize, okay, maybe we screwed up this game. We can't really bring this one back. All right, let's just go back to the draft phase. What do you think they might want to focus going into the next one?
I think they're starting to see the power of diving. So, I think they probably should hold on to the Janna, but they also need to possibly prioritize banning this Zek. So I believe both sides had, what, 2 mid lane bans last team fight? Or last game, sorry. So possibly letting some of those mid lane bans out and instead trying to create or force the other team into a team comp that isn't exactly amazing at diving. Because honestly, they played out these dives extremely well. They swapped aggro properly, they ulted the right people, and they were able to set up play after play with that Bard.
Yeah, if I had to give an MVP of this game, I would probably just say the Bard, because even though almost everyone on this team played phenomenally, he just saved so many clutch situations with multi-man Tempered Fates and really, really good bindings that are pretty difficult to land in some of the angles he was at. Looks like
yeah, Bard definitely played exceptionally well. Also gonna have to give some credit to... Full. They have to move to spectate. One person has to spectate.
Yeah.
Ooh, one of my pet peeves just hit me. I didn't see it until after the game. But if someone passed level 9 with
with the trinkets. Yes.
Once you get level 9, your trinket upgrade is free.
Always remember.
Sometimes there are reasons to keep the red, the level 1 red. I mean, I guess it has a slightly longer range, and you can use it to check pushes if you're scared. But you're a tank. You shouldn't really be scared.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get you into this game. I don't think anyone... Maybe nobody has you on their friend list, but...
Yeah, I don't think I have any of these people on my friends list.
Once they invite, I'll just move down to the spectators. But one thing that actually really annoys me about the client in terms of custom lobbies is that if you're in a spectator position, you don't have power to invite people.
Oh, it's very annoying.
Yeah. So you actually have to be on Team 1 or Team 2 to get invite power. So I just jumped up there real quick. We got Richard back in this. I can update the score. Team 10 is in the lead right now. Trying to bring it back after yesterday. The other Team 10 actually fell behind and got 2-0'd. All right. So do you think the Vayne ban that Team 6 on the blue side last game picked, do you think that was worth it? Because the enemy AD carry made some work happen, or did some work rather, on that Caitlyn.
Honestly, if Ezreal instead had turned into Vayne, things could have possibly happened. But against a team with Lysandra, Zach, Bard, it's kind of hard to dodge everything the entire time. But at least Vayne has more damage than Ezreal, to some extent.
Yeah, and that Bard ban coming out, that doesn't really surprise me at all. He made a lot of plays happen, but that Zach, Lysandra, like you mentioned, are also really important things to keep in mind.
Yeah, the Ryze ban, also pretty good. I would say Ryze in general is a little broken right now. He has a little too much damage and wave clear and survivability all packed into one package. But at the same time, I would say LeBlanc is also a must ban in the mid lane if either champion has learned LeBlanc, if either player has learned LeBlanc.
Yeah, and these are the same bans going for blue team. They did so well last game. I think going for the exact same team comp, if you can get it, is completely fine. Looks like the Vayne actually does come out. Once again, they really don't want the enemy. I don't remember who exactly the AD carry was that game, but they really don't want
Chill pill.
yeah, that's right. He was no chill pill last game, but they don't want chill pill going for that Vayne, getting that invisibility off the final hour. It's
Interesting.
super
So
scary.
they banned the Vayne against a Caitlyn player.
Well, you could play both champions. Maybe they're not quite as afraid of the Caitlyn as they are of the Vayne. I mean, obviously the entire team did well, but I know Vayne. After watching you play, I've seen Vayne solo carry many a game before, so I can understand if they're a little bit nervous. But they actually banned the Echo from Quickbane Ace, and I'm really curious to see what he goes for, and if he wants to save his mid lane pick for the last pick instead of Team 10, where they use their red side advantage to get Bard, which is maybe
honestly, I think the first pick here should be one of these power mid laners or power junglers.
Yeah, I think they should go for the Zac personally, just because I thought they made that work so well. But they actually go for a first pick Darius. They're hovering. That would surprise me, but if he wants to bring it back, maybe he feels confident in the matchup. He actually fell behind against the Swain, but not behind enough that it didn't matter. And looks like the Zac Caitlyn going to be auto-locked for Team 6. Taking that away, I really like that. Forcing the enemy.
It'd be very funny if the teams picked each other's teams, but I realize it's impossible since Darius is back on the Darius player now. but the Zac and Caitlyn did switch teams.
Yeah. So at first I was like, wait, so they're playing the same champions? No. Team 6 just really wanted to force the enemy onto different champions. And I really like this. It's in a best of 3, you gotta force your other opponent's hands. And if they're comfortable on these champions, I think the Zac is definitely a safer pick than Skarner. We saw Skarner get pretty much 0 effective ganks off before level 6, and then he got 1 good gank top with that Impale. But I think that was really the only relevant play he made all game. So going on that Zac, hopefully he runs Courage of the Colossus. Maybe we can see a lot more coming out. On the other side, though, Sejuani is pretty similar in terms of her role in a team fight. Just a little bit harder to land that engage than Zac.
Yes, Sejuani's engage is harder to flank with Sejuani than it is to flank with Zac. Mostly because her ultimate can just completely miss. You can go full X-Smithy or half X-Smithy, but...
Yeah, the first time I played Sejuani, I definitely will always remember how my first ultimate I used, because you always see this Glacial Prison, just huge AoE that freezes everyone, except the actual explosion radius for the impact is way smaller than all the champions it affects. So you have to aim it more precisely, and then once you hit one person, it's like a huge AoE. And that caught me off guard. So hopefully Kylexi can get some of those ultimates out. King Crab going for that Karma though.
Where's the Janna? This is Zac. You literally have the perfect counter to Zac. A double disengage.
Yeah, I do want to give a huge shout out to Asian Model Life. He was able to cancel one of those Zac elastic slingshots with the Monsoon, which is pretty nice to see, and especially in the lower bracket, you don't quite see those very high mechanically intensive outplays very often, so I do want to give him props for that. But we'll see if he can do similar things with Thresh. And looks like it's going to be the Brand Karma as the final picks. Who do you think is going mid lane?
Definitely the Brand, I would say. I don't exactly see Brand as a very effective support against Caitlyn Thresh. Brand thrives against tanks simply because he burns so hard. So Brand is super good against people like Braum and Leona. But someone as mobile and as threatening as Thresh, I think Brand does very poorly against. So I think it's definitely going to be this Karma mid lane. Or a Karma support Brand mid lane.
Yeah, and in 35 seconds, we'll be able to kind of talk about these summoner spells these teams are running. But what are your thoughts on the Darius Rumble matchup? Because Rumble's pretty much always going to go top lane.
Yeah, I actually think this is slightly favored towards Darius, so I find it a little interesting that he picked Rumble into it. But maybe McCracken just happens to be a top lane AP player only that's swaying into Rumble pick. So, I'm pretty sure Darius still wins this matchup. So I'm a little unsure as to why Rumble was picked.
I mean, they do have that giant AoE teamfight synergy. Hopefully, if Rumble can stay alive, he can make it work. And something tricky that viewers won't be able to see because their spoiler banners are still up. But Vladimir is actually running Ignite until the very last second and then switched it to the Ghost. So maybe just extra stream precautions. But I got you, quick band-aids. Don't worry, Evan. Anyways, he's going to be going for that Ghost Flash. Definitely a pretty popular choice for mid lane Vladimir's.
Yeah, I think Ghost Flash is perfectly fine. You're going to be laning against a Brand. Being able to dodge skills is just as important as being able to, I don't know, I guess eventually ignite him for kill pressure. But if he can't hit you, you win. Because you have this lane and he
Going back to that thing we were talking about game 1, just the core principle of winning in League of Legends. If you don't die, they cannot beat you.
Exactly. Unless you have a team with no wave clear. So remember, 1, survive first, and then 2, wave clear.
And
speaking
of wave clear, red team doesn't have quite as much this game. They do have the Vladimir and Rumble, but those champions are a little dicey because they just have to get a little bit closer. And if they bring Caitlyn later on, they'll be able to bring Caitlyn kind of over into a lot of these siege situations. And with her Hurricane, she can do a little bit better, but not quite as much as Team 10 has this game. So we'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'd also be very careful running double AP carries in your solo lane, because it means that you can effectively build against the team fight through laning phase. So that's something that you generally want to avoid. By having an AP top and an AP mid,
and
Darius
AP jungler.
Darius is going to build MR. So when Darius joins the team fight, he's already ready for everyone except for Caitlyn. Not exactly an ideal situation. Same thing for Sejuani.
Yeah, presumably Caitlyn won't really be at her full damage in the first 1 or 2 team fights. Maybe she'll have an item and a half. Got that BF and Randuin's Hurricane a little, but not completely online. So we'll see if Darius, the murderous Indian first pick, is going to be able to kind of dominate this. And also going back to the bans, we talk about Ryze, Gangplank, Echo. Wow, so much mid lane focus, but all 3 of those champions are ones you could actually bring to the top lane if you're comfortable bringing it up there. Echo not quite as popular, and Ryze hasn't been up there very frequently recently, but if you look at McCracken, who's been playing a lot of AP tops, a lot of these caster type top laners, that might be something that could be a double ban against Team 6. So I'm liking Team 10's plan here going into this game. We'll see if it works out.
Yeah, I think the top lane matchup's gonna come down to who presses Q more. So it's pretty much Rumble's gonna try to harass and burn some minions and gain some minion advantage. All Darius has to do is do the exact same thing over and over. So as long as they're both very smart about when and how many minions they kill with their Q, they can always balance the wave in such a way that they can win ever so slightly against their opponent. So I guess you do have to be scared of the ganks, but both junglers are extremely tanky, relatively low damage, so I don't think you need to be too careful with that either.
Important to point out, both these teams have pretty sick skins. We got Dark Star Thresh and the Super Galaxy Rumble on the red side, but then again, there is this Dark Rider Sejuani and the Zombie brand, so I think it might be a dead tie between the skin war in this matchup.
I'm gonna have to give it slightly over to red side, just by a little bit.
All right, you feeling that Dark Star, all that black hole action coming out from their support.
Also, I love Super Galaxy Rumble. Possibly the most annoying and tilting skin you could ever play against.
Oh my goodness. And for a short period of time was factually stronger than the original Rumble skin because they had a bug that gave extra flame splitter ticks. I do believe that was patched like a year ago.
Yeah. And there was another time where he was able to fire his harpoons faster than than the other skins too.
Alright.
So
Pay to win confirmed. Holy cow. But anyways, this is going to be Game 2 of the semifinal in the 2016 Capital One Circuit lower bracket between Team 10 and SKT T6. I'm just going to switch up the team names because this is the next game. They are on opposite sides. Currently, Team 10 is in the lead 1-0, so we'll see if they can close it out here or if Team 6 is going to bring it back with their super potion start. We got 4 potions on Vlad.
I find it interesting that neither team, or I guess only red team went for the deep ward. The deep ward is so telling in this new meta because it shows exactly where the other jungler starts and if they have the option to do a level 3 cheese. Red team warded deep and they now know Sejuani is starting bot side and may go for a level 3 cheese, so therefore they shouldn't play aggressively bot lane. However, they know nothing of Zac. Zac might go for the level 3 cheese and then gank top lane. I think that's exactly what he's going to go for. So, let's see if blue team successfully plays around with no knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, and something that was a little subtle, but K-Wolf and Asian Model Life were actually standing next to their tower for a few seconds, so trying to maybe mind game the enemy to make them think that they've been leashing for their jungler. Obviously, Jinx and Thresh were late to the lane, so that's kind of telling that they're leashing for Sejuani, and like you said, they had the deep wood, so they knew 100%. But blue team really doesn't know exactly where Zac is right now, and we'll see if Darius is able to play accordingly.
Wait, red team knows that the jungler started bot side. How are they going to fall for this?
Well, looks like it's gonna happen. A good play from Asian Model Life, though he does not have the Dark Passage, so no Lantern for K-Wolf. He's gonna have to burn Flash. Meanwhile, on the top side, Zac actually comes in with the red buff himself, but nothing happens on either side. Both laning victims had to blow their flashes. We'll see if the enemy follows up on it later. And Quick Bait Ace actually gets stunned out here. The Ignite pops, and having to use that Sanguine Pool to avoid more auto attacks and possibly Conflagration, if that comes back off cooldown, is going to force him to have a very early back. If
really,
not,
red team just needed to ward their bot lane. They knew it was an option.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Obviously, scouting is half the battle, but what you do with the information is the other half. I saw that Kylexi trying to jump over the wall, having to pop her Arctic Assault to get in there.
I think that's a dead Vladimir.
Holy cow! Quick
No.
pen ace! Alright, he's alive and well. Saying, don't worry about it, fam. I got 440 gold, and he's gonna stay in lane. Really dancing with death right here. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts life-stealing off these minions with his auto attacks. Because he's just dancing so much. It looks like Rumble's actually gonna do a really aggressive roam down here, but Brand did have that ward, so he's gonna back up. Very, very smart by Brand, knowing that he's pushed out and throwing down that ward to compensate. You don't see a lot of top lane ganks. Mostly, it's everyone kind of converging on that top lane. So, Rumble trying to see if he can make it work because he was able to out-shove Darius, but good communication on the side of Team 10. And the reason why people usually converge on top lane is just because you don't want to get teleported on if you gank another lane. So, that can definitely not work out for you if you get caught off guard by a Darius flanking your backlines. But right then, nothing really happened. They're able to just completely avoid the fight altogether.
Ooh, the minion stepping right in front of the Brand queue.
Minion MVP, man. Darius is ahead 10 CS so far. This is pretty much the exact same as last game, except Darius is ahead now instead of the Rumble, and he's actually going to get another apprehend. Gets him with the sweet spot for the Decimate, and Courage of the Colossus going to provide him a very useful shield. That probably saved 100 health off him right there. And meanwhile, Zach actually gets in view of Brand, so I Am Baby Groot just literally walks away and is able to escape that one. I think Zach stepped a little too far forward there before charging the slingshot.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with the Doran's shield start on Darius against a Rumble. There aren't really any single target spells to dodge. I guess Harpoon, but I think something like a longsword.
It blocks from spells too. Does that block Flame Spitter damage?
Only single target spells, so no, it does
okay.
not.
Glad we could clarify that. So, yeah, he is definitely hurting there. Maybe that health regen can help him out a little bit, but might have been useful to get more potions in that lane. For now,
Yeah,
he'll
honestly,
be pretty happy.
I honestly think that going with a startup with stronger. Oh, does that gank bot?
Yeah, he actually comes in there, and they do get some CC onto Chill Pill 56. I don't know why the directed camera didn't bring me down here until after Zach came in, but looks like he is going to be able to get away at the cost of both the Jinx Summoners. So if these teams are tracking the enemy Summoners, that might be a golden opportunity to make something happen and then go for this very valuable Infernal Drake.
Yeah, I actually think if K-Wolf played that bot lane slightly better, they would have had the kill. But if you saw, during that gank, K-Wolf stood still in auto attack, didn't do any war blocking, and didn't reposition during that fight. If K-Wolf just stepped forward, that's the difference between getting that one extra auto off in the team fight and getting the kill. And possibly 2 extra autos if they used the heal to chase. So I think there was a kill there, but sadly K-Wolf didn't mechanically play it well enough to get it.
Yeah, and actually Zach just goes super aggressive here, going into the enemy jungler blind. Even though his mid lane is getting pushed in, he has no vision of Sejuani, so that's very risky to say the least. But it works out for him. Sejuani was on the top side, and he gets away with a free buff. This is the second one he stole in this game, because he did grab that Sejuani's blue earlier on.
Yeah, honestly, Zach really needs to just recall and buy his items now. Stealing buffs is great, but you might as well have your full jungle item. That way you actually get a bonus gold and EXP out of it.
Yeah, you can see right now he's level 5, so he's not quite ahead of Sejuani just yet, and pretty even in terms of gold as well, only up 30. So, which isn't really reflected in terms of any items, but I do like the amount of control wards being bought out here by Team 6. They really seem to emphasize a lot of vision last game, and even though the engage tools were really long range, so it didn't really help them avoid stuff, I think their mind is in the right place. They understand that they need to try to work as a team to be able to make the correct shot calls. Speaking of working as a team, Caitlyn actually burning her net after Thresh threw down the W. Maybe not quite optimal, but not a huge deal because you still get the shield off of that Dark Passage. And here comes Zach, actually! I Am Baby Groot having to burn his flash. Zach having a lot of trouble finding these knockups to work. They did get that 1 CC onto the Jinx earlier, but again, like you said, they weren't able to get the kill, partially due to that Caitlyn micro. We'll see if he's able to do anything else going forward.
It looks like Alexi's not going to be giving the blue buff over to this Brand who's clearly hurting for mana.
Yeah.
Choice.
Looking at the buff saying, look at me, this is my buff now, and Zombie Brand is very low on mana, to say the least. Looks like Sejuani's going to actually be going for a lane gank. Rumble's not able to see this, he does get apprehended, and if the Glacial Prison comes out, good flash, is able to dodge that CC completely. Looks like bot lane now is trading pretty back and forth. The Piltover Peacemaker does land, so K-Wolf's going to be pretty happy with this trade until that Spirit Fire does kind of come back and punish him a little bit, but pretty exciting across the board. So far, though, surprisingly, no kills at all. Here comes another gank from the Zac. Didn't quite get the Elastic Slingshot to max distance, so maybe not going to be able to get the Darius. It's going to be super scary to tower dive a Darius, because if you get those stacks with the Noxian Guillotine, that can definitely ruin your day. But instead, he just plays it safe.
This play there from Grillmaster Jessen. You know the Darius has to be in there, or he has to flash. So by stepping backwards and then ulting, he ends up pushing Darius further away from his teammate. You really should just ult it immediately. Whether or not you get max stacks and ticks of your ult isn't too important. It matters what direction you push them into.
Yeah, and Sejuani does find Zac here, going to be able to steal some of this gold, asking for help from the Rumble. I don't know if Sejuani can really do enough damage to burst Zac out, especially since he still probably has the passive Curse of the Colossus, even going to save him for now. Looks like Brand has roamed up first because he did have the shove pressure onto his enemy Vladimir, but Vladimir gets the first blood off the backside. A good response, being able to pick up the kill on the enemy jungler. But I am Baby Groot gets one last Pillar of Flame. That's going to give him a little bit of gold coming back. And Grillmaster Chesed coming in saying, I still have my passive. What are you going to do? 2v1 Darius. And actually, that's what Darius is going to do. Going to be able to get that great Decimate AoE when the Zac blobs were in the sweet spot. So he's able to pick up one kill quick, but Ace actually flashes forward. He has a slow from the Tides of Blood. All he needs is one more Q, but Darius might be a little bit faster. No, he's not. Basic boots, 2 basic boots, and that's a basic kill to the Vladimir.
Yeah, quick bait Ace, slight mechanical misplay there as well. Trying to use targeted ability when the enemy was about to step into the brush. In cases like that, you either immediately flash Q because you want to get off your crit Q, or you charge your E and then flash E and then get off your crit Q, or just don't try to Q in the first place and use something else. So, small, tiny mechanical misplay, but it's really hard to notice until you start really trying to optimize your play.
Overall, very good room and knowledge of his strengths and how much he can actually take here. Looks like a teleport is going to actually come out. Thresh flashes forward for the play, but here comes Sejuani. Just a great follow-up here. I don't even know if Thresh can get out of here right now. Murderous Indian is here also. This is a huge party in the bottom lane. Everyone except Vladimir is down right now. This could be a dragon for the blue team. Super Mega Death Rocket comes out, and Darius gets him with a Noxian Guillotine. Meanwhile, Zac is also going to go down. Remember, his Cell division already got popped in the last fight. That's going to be either a free bot tower or a free dragon. But whatever it is, K-Wolf cannot do it alone. He is right now trying to 1v2 against the Curse of the Colossus plus the Inspire Shield from the Karma. So K-Wolf just trying to walk away. Is he going to be able to dodge the last Q? No, he's not. He walked away from his minion shields. Pro tip, if you're trying to dodge skill shots, that minion line is coming in to block you, but he actually tried to juke left instead of going for the safer right. I don't know if it would have really made a difference in terms of AoE, but in the end, a huge power play for Team 10.
Yeah, and a slight thing on dodging, it's actually, as counterintuitive as it may seem, it's sometimes better to walk towards your opponent in cases like that. Karma was already close to tower range and probably would not be willing to dive for much longer. So by walking towards Karma, you have the opportunity to juke perpendicular to her, and then that forces her to aim her Q perfectly angle-wise in order to actually hit you.
Yeah, I am Baby Groot being super aggressive here. I think it's me playing this right now because that's pretty much what I do every game. Just kind of go out, try to kill some wards, and instantly die. So, a good follow-up hook by the Thresh.
Kalexi really should not have done red there. Really should have recalled to get ready for this dragon. But I guess after seeing Brand cut out, they decided, never mind, we'll just give up on this entirely instead.
Speaking of giving up, Chill Pill may have the final word, but a good response by the red team. Gonna just pull it out here, and Super Mega Death Rocket comes out, but it comes out just a smidgen too late.
Nice attempt for the steal, though. I would say it was a pretty close one.
Yeah, they are going to get that Infernal, and that's going to be super important going into the late game. The Infernal Drake just going to be doing so much, especially coupled onto the Rumble Equalizer and the Vladimir endgame kind of burst. Or not burst, but sustained damage.
I think what Murderous Indian really needs to win this matchup is the Merc Treads. MR, slow reduction, get in there and murder him. Because Darius thrives in a melee condition, and a Rumble is just going to continuously kite you and poke you, unless you can force him to go melee. The easiest way to do that is to run at him faster.
Yeah, and looks like Sejuani does actually get spotted out by that ward, but she throws on a control one herself to kind of clear that if she wants to come back and revisit the top lane herself. Zach going to be kind of roaming around this mid lane. I'm not sure if he got spotted by that ward, but he's actually just going to steal the Raptors. Another very aggressive steal. At least this time he knew that Sejuani was near the top side, and now because Brand left the mid lane, they know 100% they're just passing off the blue buff, so Zach going to be able to steal 62 gold there, plus the babies. And he's going for a very sneaky bottom lane gank. I actually wish he kind of went down around the enemy Krugs, because then he wouldn't
really
even
should
be...
have.
Yeah, instead he does get spotted out by this Tribush control ward, and a good Glacial Prison coming out. They then follow up with the Apprehend on Darius, but a 3-man equalizer coming out from Rumble. I Am Baby Groot actually walks into the equalizer and then flashes into the back of the equalizer itself, so just taking a lot of free unnecessary damage. Quickman Ace barely gets off that crit transfusion to keep him alive against the Darius, and this is getting super close here. The Zac is nowhere to be seen. Quickman Ace gets pulled again, but a Sanguine Pool keeps him alive, and the burn damage from McCracken picks up 1 kill, but I Am Baby Groot coming back around. They're answering. That 3v2 fight was very close, and meanwhile, in the bottom side, Chillpill 56 just kind of getting a little scared and having to back off, but all K-Wolf's doing is getting a few turret autos off in exchange for that pretty even trade in the mid lane.
Yeah, quick. I Am Baby Groot made a slight misplay there. After they landed all the stuns, he put his pillar just a little too far and missed it. If that pillar hit, I actually think Quickman Ace would have died immediately and not gotten the massive healing from his 3-man ultimate. So that's quite a bad oversight. Also, I Am Baby Groot also had his ultimate up at the time. He was probably a little hesitant to use it on a Vladimir because he can pool it. But if he uses his ultimate first and then lays on all of his abilities, he'll probably hit before he got out of his stun.
Yeah, Brand just barely getting out of that. Fully charged Type of Blood. Doesn't want to get slowed up and possibly followed up for a kill. And I really got to hand it to Quickman Ace. He got really harassed and kind of bullied in that first game when he was playing the Echo. But he's been able to kind of bring it back here, and he's doing the best on his team so far. You can see he's actually ahead of his lane opponent by about 600 gold, which is, I believe, the largest lead in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, everyone else is closer, so well played.
Yeah, he also decided to build defensively first item, so it's kind of hard to dodge Brand damage unless, I guess, you're good at dodging skill shots and abilities. He stood too close to minions that were on fire and had E spread to him. So Spirit Visage, I guess it's pretty standard to rush on Vladimir, but he's really only against 1, possibly 2, like 1.5 APs. They could have gone for something else. So I'm proud of him for building the defensive item first. He's managed to always stay alive in these fights, and thus get his damage out, and thus pick up the kills.
Yeah, it's really been working out for him. And we'll see if Chillpill and K-Wolf are able to 1v1 here. Both the supports are roaming toward the mid side. I don't know if either of them know that the other one is around here just yet, but looks like King Crab going to be coming down here, coming back to the bottom side. And without that turret, Caitlyn's just going to have to back up. Meanwhile, a lot of focus being put in the top side. I Am Baby Groot actually gets a stun off on the Kraken. The Pillar of Flame almost gets apprehended out of. Darius almost apprehends him out of the Pillar of Flame, but it does land, and Murderous Indian's going to be able to get him with the final ultimate. Hexdrinker is doing so much here for Murderous Indian. You're talking about that double AP. The fact that a double AP means Darius can build very effectively against it. Now, Quickman Ace knows I Am Baby Groot's cooldowns are completely down. He doesn't even try to go for the Darius. He wants to grab the free kill in the game right now. He's on a rampage, 4-0, and on the bottom side, they're going to really have to watch out because Sejuani is ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah, another misplay by I Am Baby Groot. He missed his pillar. He honestly should have just been patient. Wait for the Zac blobs to group up, use a pillar, and then use his conflagration to spread to everything else.
Yeah, and another good play by Asian Model Life, being able to block that Arctic Assault. There's actually no follow-up from the ultimate, but looks like Chillpill actually gets wombo comboed by K-Wolf, getting that E, and a great flash dodge by K-Wolf, being able to get away from that Glacial Prison, and the follow-up hook from Mad Life forces Sejuani to burn her Arctic Assault to get away after that. Karma trying to help her out, and looks like that'll be the end of this fight, but very intense play down in the bottom side. Jinx barely losing out on that one.
Yeah, that was an interesting fight where they just both AD carries stood staring at each other, shooting at each other, using both of their heals. Both of them actually still had flash up during that entire engage. So ideally, one of them would have flashed, like Caitlyn would have flashed the Jinx ultimate, Jinx would flash the Caitlyn net, and the other person would get the kill. But instead they stood still, right clicking away. But
Hey man, that's
I guess
an honorable duel. You just stand there and fight until one person wins, I guess. But yeah, maybe they want to keep their cooldowns in mind for the next fight. Caitlyn setting up a trap line to kind of dissuade the enemy team from trying to enter into their side of the jungle, want to keep their blue buff protected. But looks like Sejuani gonna be flexing her muscles here, saying, you do not want to mess with me. I have my ultimate back off cooldown soon. I'm a threat to be reckoned with. Or forced to be reckoned with, I guess is the proper saying. Both teams just kind of pressuring around the next Infernal Drake. Because last game we saw Mountain Drake, I believe, first. But this time the double Infernal definitely going to be very important for them going forward. And Thresh clearing some vision.
yeah, I don't really agree with Thresh going cooldown boots. I think the Moby boots would have been a little more helpful for the catches that their team really needs. Thresh with Mobies is not only great for roaming and catching, but it's also great for initiating. If you move so fast, you have to flash away from his hooks if he's running straight at you with Mobies.
Yeah, Quick Ben Ace gets harassed a little bit by that inspired Caitlyn, or the inspired Jinx auto attacks, but he just kind of walks away from both the traps and the zap. So after a few transfusions, he'll be back up and topped off at full health. We'll see if Asia Model Life can land this hook. Just barely dodged by I Am Baby Group. Well played by that brand.
Yeah. You see, with movement speed and Moby boots, you can walk a lot closer,
Aha.
and then more or less get a flay first into a hook. Ooh.
Pro tip. Anyways, the warding line for the red team right now seems very defensive, and actually, Zach gonna be able to get out of there. There is no real reliable CC they can use to interrupt that Zach jump if Sejuani's already used her Arctic Assault, the Q. So there's not really much that Team 10 can do here, but actually Elastic Slingshot does land on the King Crab. A teleport from the Darius is going to be followed up instantly, and now this could be a huge fight. A 4-man Glacial Prison might be the deciding factor here. Looks like everyone is backing off on the red side. Quick Ben Ace going to pop his Zanyas. Maybe he can get enough heals from his ultimate, but Zach goes back and he instantly falls to the AoE. Brand is doing so much work in this fight. Iron Baby Groot just walks under the turret, autos him for the last triple kill, and Karma goes for the focus resolve. Gets the tether off. That's going to be an ace for the blue team. Very well executed by the blue team, and red was a little too eager to kind of fall back in and not respecting the Sejuani ultimate. They are both teams are pretty clumped up there, but we saw the Sejuani ultimate before the Rumble one, so
Yeah, the Sejuani ultimate, coupled with the Brand ultimate, did so much AoE AP damage, and it completely destroyed a team that doesn't have losses yet.
Yeah, now, unfortunately for SKT6, they're in a 4,000 gold deficit. We'll see if they can come back in this game. I do think they're definitely in a better spot composition-wise than they were last game, and definitely a 4,000 gold lead at 23 minutes is better than the 10,000 one they were in last game.
Yeah, honestly, both teams have a lot of wombo combo potential. Both teams also rely on an AP wombo combo potential. So there definitely needs to be a Locket coming out of both teams. Even though Locket isn't an AoE MR item anymore, the double strength on the shield is pretty ridiculous.
I saw that, Zach, trying to jump over there, just trying to play it off like you meant to do it all along. But, yeah, the Locket would definitely be pretty valuable here. Karma did go for that Redemption Rush, while Thresh is still just going to build some more MR, maybe going for that Locket like you were talking about later on. So, Murderous Indian, sorry, not very mysterious actually, but he's just going to be happy to keep holding this top lane. He's 3-1, so this first pick is pretty much working out in my book.
It's quite the comfort pick for him, and he seems to be very comfortable on that champion. Gruel Master Jessen came up looking maybe possibly to dive and ends up doing nothing, so a bunch of wasted time. Also, like all the time he's wasted with a level 1 trinket since level 9.
Yeah, that sweeping lens, not ideal, buddy. You're 11 now, you should be able to swap it, no problemo. Rumble actually throwing the equalizer down to kill some of the minions, but they might just tank the turret. That's going to be a very dangerous decision, but actually the entirety of their bot lane is here, so just going to be saved by that Dark Passage. Is he going to get hit up? Thresh blocks that, and a good box follow-up. Going to be able to save his buddy. This Thresh has been playing pretty dang well this game, in my opinion, but this is going to be a bottom versus top lane tower race, 2v4.
Yeah. Honestly, what Karma should have done there, just stepped on the lantern and done his best to body block the click.
Yeah, I'm sure it gets pretty difficult in the moment to make decisions like that. But looks like actually Team 6 is just going to continue on this turret chase. They were ahead a little bit because they got to the bottom inner turret before their enemies got to the top one. But they're actually going to kill the inhibitor turret. And now Zach is just trying to stop the recalls, but he does not want to get caught and throw away the game with a huge team fight. Huge team fight disadvantage. Looks like Brand is finally going to be able to scare off the rest of that red team, but they get a free inhibitor tower out of that exchange. This is what I really like to see from SKT6. Even though last game they got really aggressively punished and got kind of beat down into submission and into the loss, this game they're coming back, they're making the risky shot calls, they're going for a lot of plays, they're not afraid to keep pulling the trigger, and that's what you really need to do to win, to just seize victory from these games.
So, Alexi takes the blue buff again, accidentally? Maybe, but
Maybe.
I may say it is a worrying trend.
Alright, I got my eye on you. She thinks she's like the queen of the Freljord. I actually don't remember Sejuani's title. I don't know if she's like a queen or a tribe leader or what, but Caitlyn finds Darius. This is not what he wants to do. He gets max range apprehended. This might just be the kill, but a trap actually catches out Murderous Indian.
Well, once again, the mechanical, the refusal to orb block. Instead of walking around Caitlyn, trying to force Caitlyn to walk around him as well. And
oh
dodging.
My goodness.
Ooh. I don't know if the heal was necessary there, but...
Yeah, and a double knockup put on them. A 3-man equalizer. Very good follow by the red team. Blue side was getting way too aggressive here. The redemption comes out. That's going to be a huge swing in this fight, along with the brand cooldowns. That's going to be a lot of damage, but here comes Quick Ben Ace. It's exhausting, but you're Vladimir. That does not do a huge amount of... that's not a huge deal to you if you can't auto-attack very much. Gets a little bit extra magic resist, and Jinx had a very good angle on the backside, being able to pick up that kill. Now she has the auto-attacks, but a great hook from Asian Monolife means that this fight might be over. Caitlyn finishes off with her ultimate, and that's finally an ace for SKT6.
What a crazy team fight. That was looking really, really bad for red team at first. And then Brand is the huge AoE ultimates, and then the comebacks with another huge AoE ultimates back from Quick Ben Ace. This is quite a crazy game right now.
Yeah, and crucially, I think Asian Monolife pretty much saved that fight with that hook onto the enemy Jinx, being able to kill her before she was able to completely sweep through the team with Get Excited, her passive. So, props to him. But again, we've seen the same mistake time and time again in a lot of these team fights where SKT6 have been kind of funneling into the AoE Glacial Prism from Sejuani, and like you mentioned with that brand follow-up, that has been absolutely wrecking them. So if they hadn't gotten caught in the first place, that might have just been a Sejuani actually smited that last minion away from Jinx, but yeah, that might have just been the game for in favor of the blue side if they hadn't gotten caught in the first place. But looks like they're going to be fighting again. I don't even know if the ultimates are back up yet. I also want to point out that Caitlyn ended the fight by auto-attacking Brand and then just kind of transition that into an ultimate, even though she's still in auto-attack range. And especially against somebody like Brand who has a lot of skill shots, I think kind of orb walking like you're talking about, trying to juke back and forth might be more consistent damage than trying to channel your ace in the hole for the win.
And honestly, just standing still and right-clicking is more DPS than ace in the hole anyways.
Yeah, I might want to keep that in mind for the next fight. But looks like this Mountain Drake is just going to be going to the enemy. Brand doing a good job at zoning the entire enemy team. And now that they have taken the Dragon, Quick Ben Ace is kind of caught out from the rest of his team. Or rather, the group over here is caught out from, is separated from the front line of Rumble and Zach. But looks like they're going to be able to get away scot-free for that positioning. And the Baron buff still up. It doesn't look like SKT6 has a lot of vision, but they don't need vision if they're getting hooked onto the Darius. A two-man Glacial Prison hasn't been quite as good as her other ones, but still might be enough. A good Super Mega Death Rocket, and the Brand passive is completely wrecking the enemy right now. King Crab comes in with the Jinx, and the Redemption comes up a little late. Only heals her friends, but that Brand damage is just keeping them in this game. Every single fight, I feel like it's starting to go in favor of SKT6, but I Am Baby Groot is basically grabbing this game by the balls and shoving it into his win column.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's honestly, I Am Baby Groot is doing the correct spell combos, using the ult and spells at the same time, but it really only works if the other team purposely funnels in and continues to be extremely stubborn about playing against the AoE of a Brand. Every single team fight, everyone has gotten hit by at least 3 Brand passives. They decide to just tank it every single time. That's what's enabling Brand to get more Brand passives. I believe the passive counts as a spell towards another passive on a different player.
Yeah, getting that extra Blaze proc is definitely gonna be hurting. Zach trying to catch another person out, but they don't have any vision of the enemy side jungle, so that would definitely have been a dicey fight to engage if they chose to follow up on that, because in the past they've had a bit of issues in terms of funneling into jungle areas like you just mentioned. However, that's going to be the first inhibitor down in favor of Team 10. They do still hold their 3,000 gold lead. Obviously, now that's 30 minutes, it means a lot less than it did a little while ago. Murderous Indian, I think, is probably going to go down here. Asian Model Life leading with the death sentence, which honestly don't really have to do. You can just kind of walk up and play. But Murderous Indian actually going in. Maybe he can get an Oxy engaging before he goes down. But no, the rest of his team, the rest of K-Wolf's team is going to show up and help him out there. Everyone except Quick Ben Ace. He's like, hey man, I'm just hanging out with my Scuttle Crab buddy, making sure nobody sneaks in Baron.
Yeah, honestly, doing Baron against the Brand is a terrible idea based on how these past team fights have been going. But yeah, Brand building Rabadons is also a terrible idea, considering everyone on the other team has MR. Almost everyone, at least.
Yeah, it looks like Quick Ben Ace was thinking the same thing, gonna try to back off there, and I saw Sejuani, the glint in Sejuani's eyes, thinking about throwing that Glacial Prison, but especially against Vladimir, he can definitely dodge that with his Sanguine Pool, so gonna be a good decision. Actually, Quick Ben Ace finds the Jinx. He might be able to just kill her outright before she can do anything. A Redemption comes out, but this fight is super spread out. That Equalizer actually only hits one person. Not quite ideal. Now they're all trying to chase Iron Baby Groot. This could be the fight that the red team finally wanted, but they're not able to close in on the kills, and now Quick Ben Ace gets completely comboed. No! The pool comes in and saves him. Cell Division is popped by Zach. That means he's about to go down. Now the fight's going back again in Team 10's favor. Quick Ben Ace grabs a Dark Passage, almost risks dying to take it, but he still comes out, and a Death Sentence comes out from Asian Model Life. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. The Caitlyn somehow died during that entire chaos as well. That's going to be another kill. Kylexi, 95, happy to take the game. The team captain of their top lane team captain going to be happy to kill the Nexus here. This is going to be Team 10 taking the series 2-0, moving on to the finals of the 2016 Capital One circuit.
Whew, what a game. Definitely much less one-sided than last game. But sadly, the team fighting for Red Team just really wasn't there. They had the combos, they had the champions, but they just couldn't execute it well enough in a way that didn't let Brand somehow win these team fights backwards. I'm pretty sure sadly I can't go to the damage chart. But I'm pretty sure if we go to the damage chart, it will be huge line for Brand. Probably a line relatively close for Jinx, but not that far away. And then Vladimir pretty close there as well.
Yeah, looking at the damage dealt, it looks like Brand was definitely in first with 31,000 over anyone else. Jinx was second with 26k, and Caitlyn actually bringing it up on the other side with 18.7 herself. Vladimir didn't do quite as much, but it was all pretty close in terms of the red team's damage spread. But we talked about this almost every single team fight, how effective Brand's use of spells was, and that's really reflected in the damage charts here. He pretty much doubled anyone on the enemy team's damage by himself.
The Rabadon build is extremely, I guess, I don't want to use the word ambitious, because it's I also don't want to just say the word wrong, but it's suboptimal. There we go. That's the word I
Suboptimal. Woo, boy. Fresh memes of the night.
It's extremely suboptimal because the enemy team has all this MR already. The flat penetration from Void Staff is so much stronger. So even if we were only talking in terms of Void Staff versus Rabadons, I think the Void Staff would have given him more damage. But because there's also a price difference there too, he could have gone for the Void Staff and another blasting wand, or a Void Staff and possibly a large rod, and overall increase his damage by that much more. So I'm gonna have to say that build definitely needs a little bit of tweaking.
Fine-tuning, perhaps.
Also, Grillmaster Jessen still sitting on the level 1 trinket.
I know that's probably your most egregious error in this game, personally. But
there's many things you can do to help yourself win the game without much effort. Improving your mechanics, somewhat difficult. Improving how you play the game in Game Sense, it takes some time and some will. But buying the right items, it's a very easy way to help improve your play. So, Grillmaster Jessen or teammates, if you're listening, please, please, please get that level 2 trinket earlier, faster. It's better. You can actually kill multiple wards with it because you can walk around with it. And it means you don't really have to face check pushes, in that you just turn it on because you're the tank, and then walk around, and then you know if there's a death push coming because you'll see it.
Do you know if the pseudo reveal works on the invisibility champions?
I believe it does.
Okay, so that's a way you can maybe spot out Vayne. But yeah, I would have been kind of excited to see Chill Pill on the Vayne. It was still banned out, but very well played by the entirety of Team 10. They didn't seem there. I think their last game is definitely a bit of a stronger showing, but I Am Baby Groot knew how to play Brand, and apparently SKT6 didn't quite, even if they explicitly kind of knew the general playstyle, hadn't really incorporated that into their team play as much as they would have liked. And in the very last fight of the game, it actually got pretty close, where Jinx was pretty low and Brand was really low on the blue side, which is pretty much all their damage. If we go back to this damage chart, if you kill Jinx and Brand, that's the entire enemy team, essentially. You can then just kite out the Darius, and Karma, Sejuani aren't going to be any threat whatsoever if you have all 5 members of your team up. But it might have been partly due to the gold lead, it might have been partly due to the effectiveness of that MR build earlier on, just stacking of the MR that the blue team was able to do to stay alive. Like you can see, Brand did have that Abyssal Scepter. If they had gone down in that fight, maybe we would still be casting this game. Maybe SKT6 would be bringing this to game 3, but that didn't really happen. They were able to, Team 10 was able to bring it back with coordinated teleport, being able to focus on their priorities and making sure they knew where to choose the fight. So really well played by I Am Baby Groot, especially, and the rest of blue team.
Yep, and I also have to, I love commenting on builds because it's one of the things that I find extremely obvious and easy way to fix and improve your play. Small little tidbit on Darius's build. Randuin's Omen's a pretty decent choice. Personally, I think I'd prefer a Dead Man's Plate there because your team is the one looking for the engages. But Randuin's is also perfectly fine. You know that Caitlyn's going to be crit spamming, although the Caitlyn build isn't quite the crit spam. And also, Randuin's Omen does reduce the damage on Vladimir's third transfusion because it is considered a crit.
I did not know that. So
yeah.
So what you're telling me is if I lane against ability power champions, I just need to build Randuin's Omen.
Honestly, Randuin's is a pretty great item all around. But no,
See a
it also
Nivea, bam.
reduces it also reduces it reduces the single target damage from Karthus Q. It reduces the frost empowered ease from Anivia. Randuin's Omen does it all. It's a pretty great item. And then going down the list, the next build I have a problem with, I would say, is the Caitlyn build. The reason you go Warlord's Bloodlust on crit spam 80 carries is partially because I think it's just better for laning phase, but also because it lets you forego building a lifesteal item. So that way you can go IE into 2 crit items. That increases your DPS by a tremendous amount. 1 crit item, 30%, plus IE, 50% crit chance. 50 sounds pretty decent, but when you throw 1 more crit chance item in there, bam, you're 80%, and you have the added attack speed. So that 80% really compounds over time extremely significantly. It's an overall extremely huge increase in DPS. The only time you sometimes consider not building 3 crit items straight in a row is when you want to get that Lord Dominus because the other team's getting too tanky. But aside from that, Bloodthirster doesn't really have a place in AD carry builds until maybe last item. You always want to get your crit item, i.e., 1 more crit item, usually Lord Dominix. Occasionally there's reasons why you don't want it, but in this meta right now, there's pretty much always going to be a tank. And then possibly Bloodthirster or GA or Mercurial Scimitar, depending on which of those 3 survivability items serves you best.
So do you think it might have been more effective to grab that Phantom Dancer or something instead of the going to the Bloodthirster?
Yeah, I don't think the Phantom Dancer would be right, but definitely a rapid fire cannon or infinity or what do you call it? Static Shiv would have been better than working on the Bloodthirster. I do know that they had that Vampiric Scepter in there kind of early. I also don't really agree with that because you have Warlord's Bloodlust. If you're low, your lifesteal is purely from you being able to auto attack in position. Considering that the other team has this big burst of AoE at the beginning and then no assassins, you really should be able to get your healing off in a team fight if you position well. There is no Fizz or someone who'll 0 to 1 you before you're able to have lifesteal from being low. So that's kind of the mentality and the reasoning and how to position when you're playing Warlords 80 carries. Same thing kind of goes for the Jinx. However, Jinx did go with the double crit build. I believe it was kind of weird. They fit in the Last Whisper and a Zeal at some time and then finished the crit item. I think finishing the crit item is correct because the other team is largely extremely squishy. The Thresh was forced into building a lot of MR because that brand AoE was doing work. So Thresh was still relatively squishy to Jinx. Caitlyn, squishy. Rumble, also squishy. And Vladimir, also squishy. So having more crit means more resets. And you'll eventually be able to deal with Zac, but he's not exactly a problem per se because the rest of your team is engaging so hard and using all this massive AoE to get you these resets. So I like the Jinx build. Caitlyn probably could have amended to be a little closer to the Jinx build, but overall,
I think it was builds aside. I think it was probably a little more impactful in terms of their positioning, getting killed by the brand. But yeah, definitely want to be able to optimize your DPS so you can eke out those very, very close situations.
Also,
go on.
If you're having issues dealing with, I guess, what to build in scenarios and such and things, there's this wonderful website called champion.gg. Essentially aggregates a crap ton of data from Platinum Plus ranked games on different AD carries, different matchups, which masteries and runes are the most common, and which mastery and runes have the highest percentage win rate, and what skill order and item builds, and you can kind of learn from these over time. Obviously, take everything with a grain of salt, just because, hey, this has a 67% win rate. This must be the best thing in the world. To do a little bit of thinking, try to figure out why it's winning so much in the current meta. But I think Champion.gg is definitely one of the best tools to help you improve in League of Legends when I think your mechanical skill is pretty decent, but you just need that little extra edge to put yourself above everyone else and then climb. So I definitely suggest going to champion.gg, figuring out champions that you enjoy playing, trying to expand your champion pool to something that's meta, and then figure out how to play against certain champions.
All right, well, thanks for the in-depth item analysis. That will mean that the finals is going to be Team 9 versus Team 10. And Team 9 have not lost a single game yet. So Team 10 definitely going to be wanting to check out maybe some of their VODs. I've actually cast them several times, or just kind of maybe scout out there, come up with some secret plans. But honestly, I think Team 10 was playing pretty solidly today. They had a very clean engages game 1. They're able to kind of bring back all the team fights in game 2. So we'll see Come and Get It play off against Chill Pill 56. I don't know exactly when that game will be cast, but the upper bracket finals are going to be this weekend at on Saturday in the afternoon. I don't have the exact time when we'll actually start the games. Probably around 2 o'clock, I think, is when we've done it in the past. But yeah, all right. Do you have any final words for anyone who's still left in Twitch chat? C9 Hai's balls.
I would say definitely throw a follow on this channel. Sometimes you don't really get the Facebook notification, or we don't pin the post saying like, hey, there's a game to watch. So if there is a game to watch, it's going to be here for you to watch. So drop a follow on this account. We honestly don't stream too often on it, so you won't get spammed with notifications. And I'd suggest leaving your email notifications on, so you know, hey, when we're streaming, there's a tournament game going on. It could be you, your friends, it could be anyone playing.
Alright guys, well, thanks for watching. I'm Sprintspeed. It was a pleasure to cast with you tonight. This was a bit of a shorter series, both games only about 30 minutes, but looks like Team 10 came to win, and they had prepared pretty well. Alright, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you later.
C9 Hai's balls signing out.